All right, good morning, fifth graders. Today we're working with comparing and ordering fractions. This is kind of my favorite because you get to find common denominators. I want to be putting these in order from least to greatest. I have four fractions here. I want to find out which one's the smallest, which one's the largest, put them in the correct order. I've got 5/9, 2/5, 1/6, and 9/10. Now you can do some things mentally right away. Try and find out which one's the smallest, which one's the biggest. Well, just by looking at this right now, I want to see which one is closest to one whole. It looks to me that 9/10 is the closest to one whole, which would be 10/10. So I'm going to say 9/10 is my biggest, because I know it's the biggest. Now I'm left with three fractions left over. I have 5/9, 2/5, and I have 1/6. Well, I know 5/9 is a little bit over half because half of 9 would be 4.5. I know 2/5 is below half because half of 5 is 2.5. And I know 1/6 is way below half because that would be 3/6. So I'm going to go ahead and say 5/9 is bigger than 2/5 because I know it is. So I'm going to go ahead and cross this off. Now I'm down to two fractions left. They're very close together, so I have to find a common denominator. 5 and 6, what number does 5 and 6 both go into? They both go into 30. How many times can 5 go into 30? 5 goes into 30 6 times, so 5 times 6 equals 30. Whatever I do on the bottom, I must do on the top. 2 times 6 equals 12. 6 times what equals 30? 6 times 5 equals 30. 1 times 5 equals 5. So right here it says, I look at my math, I did it correctly, 1/6 is smaller than 2/5, and 2/5 is larger. Now I'm going to go ahead and check, just to double check to see if 5/9 is actually bigger than 2/5. No point in getting an easy problem wrong here. Well, what number can 9 and 5 both go into? They can both go into 45. 9 times 5 equals 45. 5 times 5 equals 25. 5 times 9 equals 45. 2 times 9 equals 18. Right here, this 25 is bigger than this 18, which means 5/9 is larger than 2/5. We'll move on to the next problem. I have 4/8, 4/7, 3/5, and 4/9. Well, I know 4/8 is exactly half, and I know 4/7 is a little over half. So on my chart right now, I know 4/7 will be ahead of 4/8. Let's look at the other ones. I have 3/5. I wonder where 3/5 will fall. And I have 4/9. Well, I know 3/5 is over half because half of 5 is 2.5. Half of 9 is 4.5. So I know 4/9 is below 3/5. So on my chart right now, I have 3/5 ahead of 4/9. So after kind of figuring this out, I want to see which one's bigger, 4/7 or 3/5. I want to know which one's the biggest. So I'm going to take 4/7 off to the side here. Take 3/5 off to the side. Because I know these two fractions right here are bigger than these two fractions. Well, I have to find a common denominator. 7 and 5, what do they both go into? They both go into 35. Basic facts here. 5 times 7 equals 35. 3 times 7 equals 21. 7 times 5 equals 35. 4 times 5 equals 20. Well, right here it looks like 3/5 is larger than 4/7. So I have 4/7. It's larger because 21 is bigger than 20. Now it's down to the last two. These fractions are done. I can go ahead and cross them off. I have 4/5 and 4/9 left. Well, let's see which one's bigger. I'm going to kind of give myself some room here. Got to find a common denominator. Which number can 8 and 9 each go into? Well, 8 times 9 is 72, so I know they both go into 72. 9 times 8 equals 72. 4 times 8 equals 32. Do you see why it's important, kids, to know your facts? 8 times 9 equals 72. 4 times 9 equals 36. Well, this 36 is bigger than the 32, so I know 4/8 is my next largest, and 4/9 is my smallest. I'm just going to double check, and I don't have to actually double check to know if I'm correct, because actually we're not there. Because the two numbers in the middle each have a 4 in the numerator. And since the 7 is smaller than the 8, that means 4/7 is larger, because each piece here is larger than each piece here. Let's look at another problem here. To fill in these missing boxes here. Let's go through this. Be nice and easy. We have to find out we have to fill in these blanks. And then we have to circle the correct answer on the right side. 2/3 equals what over 6? Well, 3 times what number equals 6? 3 times 2. So 2 times 2 equals 4. 3 times what equals 9? 3 times 3 equals 9. So 2 times 3 equals 6. 3 times what equals 12? 3 times 4 equals 12. So 2 times 4 equals 8. See how easy this math is? Let's go to the next problem. 4 times what equals 8? 4 times 2. So that means 3 times 2 equals 6. 4 times what equals 12? 4 times 3. So 3 times 3 equals 9. 4 times what equals 16? 4 times 4 equals 16. So 3 times 4 equals 12. Now we're going from a larger number to a smaller number, which means we're dividing. 16 divided by 4 equals 4. So 20 divided by 4 equals 5. 8 divided by what equals 4? 8 divided by 2. So 14 divided by 2 equals 7. Now we're going from a small number to a larger number. 6 times what equals 12? 6 times 2. So 11 times 2 equals 22. So listen, now they're throwing some mixed numbers into it. They're trying to trick us. So what they're doing here is they're changing this mixed number into an improper fraction. We worked on this yesterday, so it's going to be nice and easy. Remember, all we're doing now is we're taking 5 times 1 equals 5 plus the 3, getting an 8 up here. 5 times 1 plus 3, we get the 8. Now we're going to take a look at this problem. They decided to even make it more complicated by changing the denominator to an 8. So let's look at 1.5 here. All we have to do right now is let's change this to a mixed number with 8 as the denominator. Well, if I'm going to change half into 8, I'm going to multiply by 4, and get 4/8. So this number really means 1 4/8. Now they want you to do what you had to do right over here. 8 times 1 equals 8 plus 4, you get 12. They kind of gave you a multiple step problem there in that little space. A lot of fun. 1 3/4 into what over 16? We have to do the same thing we did here by changing it into 8, but here we're changing it into 16. So 1 3/4 equals what over 16? Well, we have to change 3/4 into 16 first. So we're going times 4 equals 12. So we have 1 and 12 over 16. But as you can see here, there's no mixed number. So they want you to put that 1 into the fraction. Nice and easy. 16 times 1 equals 16 plus 12 is 28. I'm going to erase this down at the bottom here so I've got some room to work out these next problems. Which is larger, 4/7 or 4/5? Well, let's check. 4/7 or 4/5? Common denominators, 7 and 5. What do they both go into? They both go into 35. 7 times 5 equals 35. 4 times 5 equals 20. 5 times 7 equals 35. 4 times 7 equals 28. 28 is larger, which means 4/5 is larger. Boom. Next problem. Problem number 3. Which is closer to 1 1/2? 1 1/3 or 1 2/5? Well, 1 1/3 or 1 2/5. We want to know which one's closer to 1 1/2. Well, let's find a common denominator. 1/3 and 2/5. They both go into 15 because 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6. Times 5 times 5, 5. Well, half of 15 would be 7 1/2. Which one's closest to 7 1/2? 6/15 is closest to 7 1/2. So 1 2/5 is closer. See how we're doing that, kids? You have to make the fractions look the same by finding common denominators. You can't compare fractions unless you have a common denominator. You just can't. Which is larger? We're on this problem right here. Which is larger, 4/7 or 3/8? 7 times 8, 56. There's my denominator. I'm converting these fractions so they look the same. I have to be able to compare them. 7 times 8, 4 times 8, 32. 8 times 7, 3 times 7, 21. What's bigger? 32. That means 4/7 is larger. Which is 2/5 closest to? 0, half, or 1? Well, 2/5. We don't have to do too much on this problem. 2/5. We know it's not closer to 0 because if we're on a number line right here, let's just put this on a number line. We have 0. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. Okay, we want to know which 2/5 is closest to. Well, half is right here. 0 is right here. 1 is here. Well, which one is this closest to? Easy. Half. You could also have done that mentally. What's half of 5? 2.5. Let's take a look at this next problem. We have 7/12 and 4/6. What's neat about this problem is they're probably telling you what is 6 times 12. Well, then you're dealing with a larger number, 72. Or you can just see they both go into the number 12. 6 times 2 equals 12. 4 times 2 equals 8. 12 times 1 equals 12. 7 times 1 equals 7. You see how this didn't have to change? Well, which one is larger? 8/12 is, or 4/6 is larger because 8 is larger than 7. So 4/6 is larger. Which is 3/16 closest to? Let's try and do this one mentally here. We have 0, we have half, we have 1. 1 would be 16/16. 0 would be 0/16. Half would be 8/16. 3/16 would be closer to 0 because 3/16 would fall right around here. So that would be 0. 2 more problems left, kids. Which is larger? 1 2/3 or 4/3? Let's take a look at this. One's a mixed number, one's an improper fraction. So you have to decide which way you want to go before you start comparing. I'm going to decide to go, I'm going to change this improper fraction to a mixed number. How many 3's go into 4? 1 3 can go into 4 evenly. What number is left over? We have a 1 left over. We have a 3 as denominator. So what is larger? 1 2/3 or 1 1/3? 1 2/3 is larger. You could have done that a different way. I'll show you the other way you could have done it. 1 2/3 and we have 4/3. I'm going to change this one to an improper fraction. 3 times 1 plus 2. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. 5/3 is larger than 4/3. 1 and 2/3 is still larger. One last problem here, kids. Which is 5/8 closest to? 0, half, or 1? Well, 8/8 is 1. 0/8 is 0. 4/8 is half, because half of 8 is 4. 5/8 is closest to, well, 5/8 would be right here, so we know it's closest to half. I think that is all I have. I wanted to do a one-word problem I want to do for you. Hang tight. Shade the fraction 6 to solve the number model. Then write a fraction number story that fits the number model. Okay. I'm not going to write a number story problem because you can do that, but I'm going to just show you quickly. 3/4 plus 5/8. I have to add these two, but before I can add fractions, I have to find a common denominator. What number can 4 and 8 both go into? They can both go into 8. So I have to change this fraction so it can look like this fraction before I can start adding them. 3/4 into 8. 4 times 2, 3 times 2 equals 6. Now I can go ahead and add these fractions up because they look the same. I'm going to take 6/8, because that's what's replacing this number, plus 5/8. Add these things up. 6 plus 5 equals 11. My common denominator is 8. Kids are going to want to add 8 plus 8 and get 16 as a denominator. That is not how you do these problems. 11/8 is your answer. If I wanted to write 11/8 as a mixed number, 8 goes in 11 once. The number that's left over is 3. Then I have my denominator, 1 and 3/8. So on my fraction sticks, I would fill this whole bar, because that would be 1, which would be 8/8. And then I'd only have to fill 3/8 and the rest. All right, thank you kids for tuning in and listening to this tutorial.